more than 1 week's worth of truth in Matthew 25? Unbelievable. Who said that?
Oh.
I believe it. Matthew chapter 25. So, the past couple weeks we've been talking about this parable of the talents. And last week, I won't put anybody on the spot and say who remembers, because I like to do that. Bernette, you remember?
Yeah, walking in your freedom.
Walking in your freedom. Yeah, we talked about the difference between your priestly duties and your kingly duties on this earth. And the king having rule, reign, dominion, expanding his kingdom, government, finances, and basically building a platform of wealth, which wealth is not just material finances, but wealth is strength. Wealth is a position of strength. And we want to lead from a position of strength, from a position of wealth. Remember when they talked about wealth in the Old Testament, there wasn't a standard currency. They weren't chasing after a currency to build wealth. They were accumulating things that would make their kingdom strong. And they could lead from that position of strength and have influence and authority in the land because of that. So the pursuit wasn't about money. The pursuit back then wasn't about goats or sheep or whatever else fields that they acquired. It wasn't about that. It was about strength and having a strong kingdom. So, if you weren't here last week, that's kind of what we were talking about. And how we can too build wealth, not chasing after riches, chasing after money, but we can build wealth in our lives that sets us up to lead from a position of strength, instead of trying to lead from a position of weakness and struggling and struggling and struggling. When we have that position of strength, it's much easier to get done what needs to be done. So, there's a little catch up. And relish and mayonnaise. Somebody got it. Thank you, Andy. Somebody laughed at my joke. That's what that was, Howard. So let's take a look at Matthew chapter 25. And in Matthew chapter 25, we're going to start at verse 14. And I'm just going to read through this parable here. For it's just like, he's talking about the kingdom of God, for it's just like a man about to go on a journey who has called his own slaves and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. So there's 3 people, each with a certain amount of talents, which was currency then, each according to his own ability. And he went on his journey. Immediately the one who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them, and gained 5 more talents. In the same manner, the one who had received 2 talents gained 2 more. But he who received the 1 talent went away, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. What's the master do? He settles accounts. The one who had received the 5 talents came up and brought 5 more talents, saying, Master, you entrusted 5 talents to me. See, I've gained 5 more talents. His master said, Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things, I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Also the one who had received the 2 talents came up and said, Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I've gained 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things, I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one who had received the 1 talent came up and said, Master, I knew you'd be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed, and I was afraid. And I went and hid your talent in the ground. See, have what's yours. But the master answered and said to him, You wicked, lazy slave. You knew that I reap where I do not sow, and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have put my money in the bank, and on arrival I would have received my money back with interest. Therefore, take away the talent from him. From who? From him, the one who had 1. Take away the talent from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more shall be given, and he will have an abundance. What's he going to have? abundance. Remember that word. But from the one who does not have, even what he does have shall be taken away. Throw out the worthless slave into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I didn't read that last verse last week because it's scary. But I think we can handle it this week. So, the thing is, the one who was put in charge with more talents reaped the reward of responsibility. He reaped the reward of being put in charge over many things because he was faithful with a few things. And the next one down the line, same thing. No, he wasn't rewarded as much, most likely, as the first one. And the third one, well, he had no reward. So something I want to propose to you today is that third individual who came up and said, Master, I just hid your money. Here's what's yours. I didn't do anything with it, but it's in the same condition as it was before. I want to propose to you that man had no influence. I want to propose to you that man most likely had no strength. He had no wealth. He had no ability to influence those around him because he wasn't faithful with what he had. Who would want to put themselves in a position to listen to a person like that? I wouldn't want to take financial advice from that man. Not at all. Now, the one who had the 10 talents, who eventually had 11, yeah, I would like to sit down with him. I would like to see what he did, how he carried this out, how he doubled his money in the time that the master was gone, and got a reward for it, put in charge of many things. This is a man that I would want to sit under and let him influence me. You following me? And there's different levels of wealth, and I use the term wealth broadly. Like I said, wealth is not just money. If you look up wealth in the Greek, it will refer to strength, from being in a position of strength. Someone who has wealth, leading from a position of strength, has influence over their community, has influence over their family, has influence if they have, in the Bible they had slaves, if they have workers, they would have influence over those people. And they've established a platform of wealth, of strength, to be able to speak into lives and influence lives so that they're encouraged and come up to that master's level. We don't want to end up like that one guy with everything taken away, thrown out, cast into the outer darkness. I would much rather learn and take the time and invest my time and my efforts to sit with someone who is influential, who's been there, who's done that, who's established in a place of strength, and glean from them. And I think most of us would. I think if most of us chose who we got to speak into our lives, which we should all kind of be running a check on who speaks into our lives, right? We just say, ask yourself this morning: who do you allow to speak into your life? Who do you allow to speak into your relationships? Who do you allow to speak into your finances? Who do you allow to speak into your family? Who in your family shouldn't you allow to speak into your situations? Just going to throw that out there. We have to be very careful as to who we're listening to, because that influences our decision making, and it influences the outcome of our lives, and it influences the outcome of our stewardship. When the Lord has stewarded us something, has given something, stewarded us, okay? Like Pastor Matt making up new words. Pastor Matt, if you're watching, I'm learning from you. So the Lord has given us something to steward, to be stewards of. We don't want to take advice from somebody like this guy with the one talent and learn from him as to how to be a steward. Correct? Right. Because we're going to get it wrong. We're going to get it wrong, and then we're going to be in the same situation with nothing left, nothing to show, and punishment. Let's put ourselves in positions where we can receive from somebody who has received reward and not punishment. Where we can then glean from them, watch and learn, come alongside them, and also reap reward and return for our labors. See, and then once we get established in that place, once we learn from a person who's been there, who's done that, who's reaped that reward, who has something to show for it, who's not all talk and no show. But once we've been with that person who's been there and done that, then we can go there and we can do that. And guess what we get to do in return? Be an influence. Does that sound familiar? Andy, what are the 4 points? What are they?
Discover purpose.
Discover your purpose. Achieve your potential. Experience favor. And be an influence. That's what we're about here at Agape. So today I'm just talking to you about being an influence with your wealth, with your strength. So we can't make a difference until we have it together first. Am I right?
Yeah.
We can try and we can scrap and we can scrounge and we can put all our efforts into it, but if we don't know where we're going, if we haven't sat down and learned how to do things properly, if we haven't learned from the experiences of a mentor, and we haven't applied it in our life, the end result is going to be naught. It's going to be nothing. You might have something, but I tell you what, you're not going to reap reward like you should. See, we have to get it together before we can help others get it together. And if you need somebody to help you get it together, make sure that person's got it together already. Let me say that again. We can't help anyone get it together until we've already got it together. And if you need someone to help you get it together, make sure that person has got it together. In whatever area of life you need help with. And we all do. It helps to have a mentor in every area of your life. To be able to glean from somebody who's been there, who's done that, who's established in that position of strength, and who can actually lead you into that. But if we're going to help somebody, it's like the expression that everybody uses. You're in an airplane, the airplane blows a hole in the side. What do? What comes down from the ceiling? Your oxygen mask comes down from the ceiling. So before you can help that 8-year-old in the seat next to you, even though you're a grown adult, you still have to put your own mask on first. Even before the small child who's in trouble next to you, you need to take care of yourself so that you can properly take care of them. Am I right? Because if you don't, if you put that mask on the child first, you're going to go unconscious, and then you're not going to be able to take care of that child from that point out. That's why it's so important to take care of our own situation and make sure that we are getting it together before we try to help someone else get it together. So you can't give what you don't have. And believe it or not, this message is actually about generosity. I haven't even gone there yet, but you can't give what you don't have. And you can't give into somebody's life out of your lack. You just can't. And when we look at finances, well, you start, you give to the Lord. You give to the church. You give out of your lack at the beginning. You do, but it shouldn't stay there. You shouldn't stay in a position of lack. When it always hurts to give, there's a problem. Let me just say that. When it always hurts to give, from the time you start giving to the time you stop giving, if it always hurts, there's a problem. At some point, joy should come in there. Joy should come in and fill that void of pain, of always giving out of your lack. See, the Lord does not want His people living in lack. He doesn't. The Lord would rather that we have abundance like this first man, the one who received the most. See, it says, for everyone who has, more shall be given, and he will have an abundance, which means more than you need. What's the definition of abundance? More than you need. It means I have more than enough to pay all my bills at the end of the month. It means I have more than enough to give my tithe. It means that I can give to the Lord over and above, and I can pay off everything that I owe man, and I still have something to work with. I still have an abundance left over. There's still some cream off the top that I can take and put somewhere, that I can invest, that I can give away, that I don't need, and I can bless somebody else with it. And I know many of you in here, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But if that's not you, you're not in an abundant situation, the Lord says, that's where you're going. That's where you're going. He does not desire for his people to live in lack. Let me just say that. He said the poor will always be among you. That doesn't mean that you have to be among them. Am I correct? I know this is kind of, search the scriptures yourself. The poor will always be among you, but he didn't say you'll always be among the poor. The Lord desires for us to be able to give, and to be able to give generously. And if we are poor, we can't give generously. We can only give what we have, and that's okay with the Lord. But how much more is it of benefit to the poor, to the Lord, and to us to be able to give out of abundance? And that's where believers can change the earth, can change the world. See, if you want to be an influencer, you have to establish a platform from which to influence. Nobody just wandered into Fort Kent one day and said, I'm going to change Fort Kent. And then stood out there on the corner and tried to influence people going by the road. That man has no platform. He's just wild and free and doing his thing, trying, but he hasn't established himself in a place to be an influence in the community. Let me just say that it's okay to have wealth. How many believe that it's okay to have wealth? That the Lord is okay with you having more than you need? See a show of hands. The Lord is okay with you having more than you need. But it's what you do with what you have that defines your character, not what you have that defines your character. If what you have does not define who you are, what you do with what you have defines who you are. It defines your character. It uncovers the motives of your heart. What you do with what you have uncovers the motives of your heart. So how generous can we be with what we have? I just want to ask you that this morning. And we're all in different places in life, in our situations. We're all in different places. Financially, we're all growing. Every one of us is growing in all aspects. But how generous can we be today with what we have? And I'm not proposing that you give away everything you have, sell your house, and live in a van in some field somewhere. That's not, hear me out, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, what can we do with what we have? What can we do with that little extra that we would have? What can we do with maybe that little bit that hurts to give away, but is going to bless somebody and is going to show the love of Christ to somebody that day? That's right. He will. He will. Actually, I have a verse for that later. Thank you, Lorna. First John chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. If you have a Bible, turn over there. 1 John chapter 3, verse 17 and 18. Anybody there say me? Okay, that's enough. 1 John chapter 3, verse 17 says, "But whoever has the world's goods and sees his brother in need and closes his heart against him, how does the love of God abide in him?" How does the love of God abide in him? Little children, let us not love with our word or with tongue, but in deed and truth. He's not just talking about hugs. It's not always enough to just hug somebody and say, it's going to be better. It'll get better. Sometimes, if you're in possession of the world's goods and you see your brother in need, it's good to open our heart to that person and give. So that where a hug is like a Band-Aid for a little while, praying for somebody, the Lord can bring that to pass, but what if the Lord put you in that person's life for such a time as that? What if the Lord would actually plan out our day so that we have interactions with specific people, and then we go to them and they're in need, pat you on the back, brother, everything's going to be okay, and I have what he needs, I have what she needs, I'll pray for you, and walk away. It says here, how can the love of God be in that person? How can the love of God be in that person? Because God is a giver. The Lord is a giver. He gave the greatest gift of all in John 3:16, where it says, God so loved the world that he gave his only son. That's the nature of God, is to give. And if the Lord is within us, if the Holy Spirit dwells within us, he should be constantly changing our nature to become givers. Not withholders, but givers. It's quiet in here.
Can I add a little something?
Sure.
Some of you people probably read it, but last week up in St. Francis was this out-of-state hunter, and he stopped into a little store called Joe's Country Store, and he asked people if they had a list of people that owed bills, have a hard time to pay them. So make a long story short, she came up with one person there that had living on a fixed income and owed a bill there. But he was paying it, but the guy paid the bill. Quite a lot of money.
Wow.
And he just happened to come in there and pay that person's bill.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you don't know whether that person was a believer or not, do you?
Don't know a thing about him. He didn't want to make mention or anything. Paid the bill and that.
Yep. Now, that should be something that believers are known for. We should be known as that type of person right there. A person that just comes in and takes care of what needs to be taken care of to the best of our ability at the time. I'm not saying we all have to give away, don't sell your house and live in a van out in the field. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we could be givers on a daily basis. On a daily basis. And maybe it's not writing a check. Maybe it's, hey, your microwave went. Well, I have a spare microwave. So here, have a microwave. Instead of just saying, well, the Lord bless you, and I'll pray for a microwave, pray for finances that you can buy a new microwave. No. I have one. Here. Or make a phone call. Hey, Mike, do you have... Sorry, Mike. Mike, do you have a microwave for sale? You got everything for sale, so... Mike just might have a microwave, who knows? But it might not cost anything on our part, financially. But the willingness of our heart to be able to give of our time, to give of ourselves, to give of what the Lord has given us, speaks volumes about our character and speaks volumes about the love of Christ working within us. So it reveals our heart condition as to what we do with what we have. Let me just say that. Lana?
This week I was downtown and I was home to McDonald's drive-thru. And there was a vehicle behind me and there was a little one crying for half a meal. And his mom said he couldn't have one. And so I told the lady, I said I wanted to have a meal for her child. And I paid, and I went around and paid her. And I said, this is for the next vehicle behind me. He has a little child. And she, when I went to the other one to pay her, she said, ma'am, she said, you're very blessed. She was a family. And that was all we wanted was a happy. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, let's turn over to James chapter 2. While we're close. James chapter 2. And we're going to look at verses 16 to 18. And I've got a quote from Todd White here. I think most people know who Todd White is by now. He said, Christians should be known for their radical generosity. I love that. Radical generosity. That means being more generous than the world. Because let me say, there's some pretty generous people in the world. But the body of Christ as a whole should be known for its radical generosity. The world should be able to spot us by how generous we are with what we've been given from the Lord. Radical generosity. So James 2, 16 to 18. And I'm in James 4. There we go. And one of you says to them, go in peace, be warned and be filled. Yet do not give them what is necessary for their body. What use is that? Even so, faith, if it has no works, is dead, being by itself. But someone may well say, you have faith, I have works. Show me your faith without the works, and I will show you my faith by my works. We say that end again. I will show you my faith by my works. I will show you what I believe. I will show you the change in me by my works, by how I act, by how I give, by how I am a giver and not a withholder when someone is in a time of need. Yes, I will go and I will invest and I will establish my platform of wealth, but it's not for me. A platform of wealth for being an influence is not for you. It is just for that, for being an influence in your community, being an influence in your family, being an influence to your children. It's not for us. And see, the love of money has nothing to do with building a platform of wealth for influence. The love of money is completely selfish. That is the root of all evil. If we love the money, we'll never give it because we claim it as ours. Even though it's a gift from the Lord, we'll claim it as our own. And the word says, how can the love of Christ be in a person like that? How can it? But here James says, I will show you my faith by my works. In other words, whatever I have, I'm going to give it. If I have it and you need it, be blessed, be warmed, be filled. Come to my house, sit by my fire, eat my food. Not, well, I hope you're okay in your cold house down there in Allagash. Hope somebody comes with firewood for you. No, come on down, come into my house. And what does that cost? Be warmed, be filled. It doesn't cost anything, but it's a revealer of our heart. It's a revealer of our heart condition. Be warmed and be filled. To open your home and let somebody come in who's out in the cold is a revealer of our own heart condition. But we can have encounters every day. Every day, if we allow the Lord to show us and for Him to set our days up for us and just say, Lord, people that need me today, just put me in their path. Just put me in their path, put them in my path, however it's going to work out, but just let me be a blessing to those people today. Let me be an influence in my community. As I go out in Fort Kent and I go about my daily things, just let somebody cross my path, and Lord, just let them have a God encounter with me. And let them see the heart of a Christian as I give into their life. Amen. I just want to share a little story, and I don't like preaching messages like this because they seem down. They seem like, well, we're not doing enough. Please don't look at this message like that. Like, we're not doing enough. We're not there. We're just down here. No. This is just a call to come up higher. Little by little by little. It doesn't mean all of a sudden, boom, now everything we own, we're just giving it away. No. The Lord is just calling us little by little to become more like Him. He's growing us as a child would grow and become more responsible with the things He's had. So I was in the community this week talking to a businessman who owns a restaurant in the community, and it blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind as to what I heard from his mouth. He said the worst days for tips in the restaurant, he's talking about his waitresses, he said the worst days for tips are Sundays. Sundays, believers. When Christians go out to eat, they tip the worst. I said, whoa, okay. Well, that needs to change. And he said, what's even better than that, being sarcastic, he said, what's even better than that is the ones who come in and they'll leave a tract as a tip. A tract as a tip. Let me just say that if we're going to leave a tract on the table, it better be with a whopping tip. Amen. A whopping tip. Because if we're going to talk the talk, we need to walk the walk, guys. Amen. Let me just say, if we don't have money to go out to eat, if Amy and I don't have money to go out to eat, we just won't go out to eat. We'll make something at home. But wherever we go, where we have an opportunity to bless somebody like that, we want to bless them to the best of our ability. We want to bless our waitress to the best of our ability. And that looks different for everybody. Now, the best of your ability could be a lot more than the best of my ability, or vice versa. I don't know, and I don't need to know. But let's just be givers out in that community. I'll tell you, that was a wake-up call for me. In this community, in Fort Kent, Maine, is where this restaurant is. The worst tips the girls get the whole week is on Sunday afternoon. That's us. That's me, that's you, and we need to change that stigma in this community. That Christians are giving people, that Christians are generous people, that we're not out to withhold everything that we can to ourselves, but we're out to give, that we're out to bless. That's the people we are. That's who God created us to be. If we're made in His image, God is a giving God. We should be giving generous people. And if you left the tract as a tip, it's not a reprimand. Just don't do it again. I love you guys. I love you guys. Proverbs 11. Let's see, before I go says, one gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Think about that. One gives freely, but grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give, and only suffers want. Whoever brings blessings will be enriched, and the one who waters himself will be watered. I think I read that wrong. Not water himself, but... Let me read that again. One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give, and only suffers want. Whoever brings blessings will be enriched, and the one who waters will himself be watered. And we've basically boiled this verse down to, you can't outgive God. We've all said that. You can't outgive God. And I can almost say that every person in this room has experienced that at some point. You can't outgive God. Like there just comes, a light comes on and says, the more I give away, the more I have. The more I give, the more I'm blessed. There was a time for Amy and I when we just decided we were going to give more than we had. Or more than we had been giving. And at that point, our account was just kind of going like this. Just going like this. And we decided, we're going to be generous with what we have. We're going to be really generous with what we have. And all of a sudden, our account starts going boop, boop, boop. Why does the account start going up? Because he who brings blessings will be enriched, and the one who waters will himself be watered. We did nothing different in our life aside from being generous with what we had. That was the only difference. We stopped looking at it as this is what we have and this is what we need to hang on to. And we started looking at it as this is what the Lord has given us to be a blessing with. And the Lord sees that and he will repay that. Proverbs 19:17 says, whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed. Imagine the Lord being in debt to you. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord. The Lord is going to pay me back. I don't give to the poor. None of us should give to the poor because we expect it in return. No, the Lord sees that and the Lord will repay that. Imagine being in the Lord's debt. How awesome that would be. I don't have to worry about it. It's my dad. He's got the cattle on 1,000 hills. Don't need to worry about it. I'm going to be taken care of. So let me just give away whatever I have here, and my cup is still going to be running over because he's my dad. I'm going to water, and he's going to water me. So let me just say that